Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, I want to take you guys back to a simpler time. Some might call it a pivotal time. Kendrick Lamar was still on the Heart Part 4, Kanye West had just given us The Life of Pablo, and a new wave of rappers like Migos, Young Thug, Lil Uzi were taking over the charts. Around the same time, a new show had taken over YouTube, where every morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, a fierce debate unfolded as a chubby, Big Mac and Henny-filled internet personality got roasted by recently retired rapper Joe Budden. But this was more than just a show. It was a cultural shift, a renaissance within hip-hop media. Just like the simultaneous emergence of rainbow-dreaded XXL freshmen and SoundCloud rappers that were redefining hip-hop in 2017, shows like Everyday Struggle epitomized the crossroads of two different sides of the culture. It captured the clash of eras, the raw energy of the new school meeting the detail-oriented skepticism of the old guard. This was more than just media. It was a battleground for the soul of the future of hip-hop, with Joe Budden representing the old school and Akademiks representing the new. But this early on in Akademiks' career, it seemed like he still somewhat understood the merit of respecting your elders. It was obvious he greatly respected the opinions and perspectives that came from his co-host Joe Budden. And while he made it known that he was more into the new school, like the Lil Uzis, Cartis, and XXXs, at this point in time, he didn't seem so delusionally off the deep end with his critiques and biases. Take his opinion on Drake having any classics, for example.
I'm not considering that Drake has any unilateral classics that would be seen by the culture.
Or what he had to say about Drake being scared of Kendrick Lamar way back in 2017.
Is Drake scared of Kendrick? Let me get my direct question.
Yes.
Is Big Sean?
And while way back in 2017, Akademiks thought that Drake had no classics, he definitely understood that from a hip-hop purist perspective, Kendrick most definitely did.
3. I think all these are classics. like the niggas puts his shit is amazing.
Wait, what's the 3 you count?
To Pimp a Butterfly.
Is it as a classic album?
Yeah, I think the rapping on To Pimp a Butterfly is better than Good Kid, Mad City. The songs on Good Kid, Mad City, and some of the concepts that he kind of get into, and also it's a first look on a big scale, so like we see it differently. But if we just go by rapping, I think some of his best rapping in his career, if we're just talking about the 3 albums, was on To Pimp a Butterfly.
Now, most of you guys would probably be surprised to hear Akademiks say this in 2024, but you'd probably be even more surprised to find out that this show never really consisted of Akademiks tearing other artists down. In fact, it was typically Akademiks on the receiving end of a tear down or a roast, whether it was from his co-host Joe.
My integrity in all this shit.
Got no accountability nowadays. Keep it on him.
Okay, and the same way when something happens, whatever, and
stop reporting on street shit. The street shit will escalate to a point where you're not going to report on it. And you can't report on it. What else? I hate to have these conversations on platforms like this, but I have to.
The much needed checking that Vic Menza gave him.
I wanted to slap you in your face. I'm just seeing you here, so I'm like, this is a tame environment, so I would keep it to my words, but I really felt as if people like you sensationalized and made a following off of clowning situations that we go through in real life.
Wale put him in his place.
I respect what you do. My respect for you is not necessarily, I have respect for you, but you didn't even show your face until they started doing this. So I'm sure they gave you something, an offer that you couldn't refuse. And nobody saw you until this jump. Everybody, and you know, a lot of people wasn't really rocking with you.
I only keep my fans rocking with me, and I got my fans rocking with me. Why
they're not gonna come out. They don't come outside.
And the most hilarious and accurate call out coming from none other than Erykah Badu.
Look very familiar.
I look very familiar.
Yeah.
Do you have YouTube?
Have we met before?
I don't think so. No, I would definitely know if I met you. What vibes are you getting from me right now?
The name Thomas keeps coming to me. You're not gonna believe it. It's so simple, and it's Thomas because there's a character on there who said Thomas all the time. She would stand in a chair. You know who you look like? You look like Jerry, the mouse from Tom and Jerry.
Hold up.
So how did this chubby goofball go from being at the receiving end and being the butt of every joke to making a career out of tearing down other rappers?
Erykah Badu, you keep my name out your mouth too. Listen, that whole little everyday struggle shit, that was another era. I'm down to violate all you. You don't mention my name, please. I never quit Erykah Badu after she came on my show and she was trying to be funny. She was old ass old, just keep getting by all these young niggas who's popping. You thought you could have stopped my platform. You stopped your own. You became enemies with me for no reason other than your jealousy and your inability to process your L against a singing rapper. Now you selling 89,000 copies after you linked up with Dirt, made a whole Dirt copy album. You linked up with Baby, everybody in the game. You said you could have stopped my shit. Can't happen.
And building a media empire so big that it's been almost impossible to exile him from the culture that many deem him to be such a poison to, even when he displays some of the most deranged behavior we've ever seen from a hip-hop media personality.
Yo, if Max got a sister and she threw you the box, would you smash?
He already has a sister.
Alright, if she threw you the box, would you smash?
No, because I'm 15.
What I mean?
We're going to touch on a couple different interesting points and questions within this video, but honestly, I'd be lying if I said this wasn't a bittersweet one for me to make. I personally discovered Akademiks in around 2015. This was around the same time that in interviews, Akademiks credits as being the year that really set things off for him on a bigger scale. He says that covering the Drake and Meek Mill beef back in 2015 was the moment that really shot his brand and his platform up to a bigger level than it had ever been before. And that was the same time I remember vividly seeing his face all over YouTube, being the first to cover every big story. I'm a massive Lil Wayne fan. Anytime I wanted an update on his legal issues with Birdman or his beef with Young Thug, around that time it all came from Akademiks.
If I was to tell you that one guy claims to love another guy, yet he would try to rip off his album title, his flow, he would call him a on Instagram, he would talk about meet him there and actually beat him there with them dicks.
And he'd bring jokes, he'd give all these rappers different nicknames. There was a satirical element to it too. Plus, he'd deliver all the relevant information and he'd be the first to do it. So at the time, for me at least, it was very refreshing to consume hip-hop news this way because I had come from reading blogs like Hot New Hip Hop or going on forums like Kanye to the. Before 2015, that was how I got most of my info on what artists were up to, any new music dropping, etc. And while Akademiks content was kind of a dumbed-down version of the more nuanced opinions you might get in articles written by real journalists, or just the intellectual, highly knowledgeable fans on different hip-hop forums who had probably studied the culture a little bit more than Akademiks. What Ak lacked in journalistic integrity, he made up for in comedy, effective communication, easily digestible deliverance of information, and speed of delivery of the news. And in a climate where everything was shifting from print to digital, it was the perfect headwind for Akademiks to become the biggest face of this new movement of digital hip-hop media. The same thing with Joe Budden, Vlad TV, and No Jumper later on. But the thing is, for the most part, Akademiks was a lot younger than his contemporaries or his predecessors. Charlemagne, Ebro, Angie, Big Boy, like the staples of hip-hop media from my generation, it felt like around 2015, Akademiks took the torch from them. And mainly it was because he resonated more with the youth. While he might not have known as much about older hip-hop, he knew enough about the bigger players in the industry to still sometimes offer valid opinions, and he knew a lot about the younger generation of artists. And because his platform was on YouTube, which generated a much younger audience than the people who were consuming hip-hop media through the radio or through the blogs, Akademiks was able to become the leader in the new generation of hip-hop media. And for a while, this was great. He started building up his Instagram simultaneously, which kind of became the hub for hip-hop content, like a modern-day world star. And eventually he stopped doing the YouTube clips and started Everyday Struggle. When he got on Everyday Struggle, I really started following him more closely, but I also started developing this love and hate relationship towards him and what he brought to hip-hop. To put it simply, I thought he was pushing bad music. Like, I grew up on the Lil Wayne's, 50s, Kanye's, so keep in mind, 2017, we're on the cusp of this massive shift in the sound of mainstream hip-hop, and it felt like it was getting shoved down our throats by the likes of an Akademiks, whether through his Instagram or the knowledge and topics that he brought to the Everyday Struggle show. His co-host Joe Budden didn't really know anything about like Lil Uzi, XXX, Migos, Yachty, etc., but they would talk about these guys every single day. So I loved the debates on the show, but you were unfortunately forced to listen to tons of commentary about these new SoundCloud artists that it felt like were being forced on you due to that being the subgenre that Akademiks kind of specialized in. And simultaneously, they'd have these guests that would come on the show, always showing Joe Budden respect, but would kind of clown Akademiks or interact with him like he was almost an intern on the show. But one day, a guest came on and didn't just clown Akademiks, they came on to really call him out and exposed him for things that I had never even realized he did. And it opened up a major flaw in his come up and in his character. Again, I discovered Akademiks through his music coverage in around 2015. I had never even knew about the Chirac stuff. But when you do a bit more digging, it seems obvious why he wants to paint the narrative that he really came up through covering the Drake and Meek Mill beef, because his true start on YouTube was definitely a lot darker. Akademiks definitely did kick off his start in hip-hop media by actually covering hip-hop music, but it was when he started covering Chicago artist Chief Keef that he realized a large percentage of his audience wanted him to cover the full backstory of not only Chief Keef, but all the different rappers within the Chicago drill scene. So that's when he created a second account on YouTube titled The War in Chirac. The channel was created in the summer of 2014, and its description reads, "This is DJ Akademiks' channel that's dedicated solely to the quote-unquote war in Chirac. Here you will receive only content about the ongoing war in Chirac. Please subscribe. Akademiks, aka the Late Night Creep, is dedicated to bringing you exciting real urban news stories in a satirical manner." The last video posted on this page was from 7 years ago, but it still managed to amass over 300,000 subscribers with over 500 videos mainly dedicated to discussing the violence occurring within Chicago in an insanely insensitive, as Akademiks puts it, quote-unquote satirical manner. Again, you have to remember this is not someone who was living within the neighborhoods that this violence was occurring in. This was a spectator who discussed these different individuals as if they were caricatures in a fictional spectacle that he created and dubbed the War in Chirac.
It's gotten to the point in the War in Chirac, and believe you me, okay, people have doubted, but I will let you know, in the War in Chirac, season 2 is way more deadly than season 1. The known players, yes, they're moving, some are dead, and I still can't believe Capo died. They killed Capo! How the f*** they killed Capo, the most loyal savage? But still, the War in Chirac's still going on. Actually, it's the most deadly. They kill niggas at record pace.
So it was only logical that when a native Chicago artist like Vic Menza pulled up as a guest on the Everyday Struggle show, he would grill Akademiks for the insanely insensitive commentary that Ak did on the violence and hardship that people Vic knew personally were suffering.
I wanted to slap you in your face. I really felt as if people like you sensationalized and made a following off of clowning situations that we go through in real life. And I think you specifically, like, you ain't never have a right. Like, whatever made you feel like you had a space to have a perspective on our people dying on a daily basis.
Now, it's important to note that Akademiks did take some accountability for the insensitivity shown on his War in Chirac channel. Vic Menza called him out for it in the summer of 2017, but Akademiks' last video on that War in Chirac channel was from the spring of 2017. And years later, he even apologized for creating the channel in the first place, showing empathy to the situation within Chicago, emphasizing that it was wrong to make a parody out of a situation he didn't fully understand.
If you could go back in time, would you make War in Chirac again?
You know, I've grown. Was it appropriate? Probably wouldn't do that again. I wouldn't do it again just because I think we're dealing with mental illness in Chicago. And when you see people are kids doing drills and all that type of, it's easy to be outraged and also say, damn, how could you guys take a life so easily? But also you got to think about the cycle of mental issues that they're having, the trauma that they're suppressing.
I was almost explaining to say, well, the rappers are doing it. Don't get mad at the blogger. I don't think at that moment I was at the point where I am now to say you shouldn't treat that subject as you did. While you might think it may have been satirical, it was the wrong thing to be satirical with. It was insensitive to people who did feel like, hey, you're talking about our family members. One of the things that it took me a while also to accept is that because I wasn't there, it might incite a lot of other stuff that happened. That's the accountability that I had to, over time realize.
But aside from the immense insensitivity within his Chirac content, the extensive pushing of this new generation of dumbed down SoundCloud rappers, Akademiks also started heavily obsessing over sales data. He was fighting with Wale on Everyday Struggle over Wale's new album, which he considered to be a flop.
Where we at now, you talking about is a flop. I can't, you gotta understand.
Why don't you think it's a flop though?
I face,
because we're artists,
I face my bad. I always wondered what would happen if I had a bad first week. I always, it's the beginning of my career, and then, I finally did. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm invincible now.
And seemingly pushing this narrative that it wasn't necessarily about the quality of music, but instead a rapper's aesthetic or how much larger than life they portrayed themselves to be was more important.
You thought you could have stopped my platform. You stopped your own. You became enemies with me for no reason other than your jealousy and your inability to process your L against a singing rapper. Now you selling 89,000 copies after you linked up with Dirk, made a whole Dirk copy album. You linked up with Baby, everybody in the game. You said you could have stopped my shit. Can't happen.
And in a way, if you want to look at this in an optimistic perspective, it was kind of a double-edged sword that also brought some positives depending how you look at it. With the multi-platform approach that Akademiks took, treating his Instagram page like the new world star, posting all the music and news, doing the quick breakdowns on YouTube, the debates and interviews on Everyday Struggle, the live streams on Twitch, I really credit Akademiks for helping blur the line in hip-hop of content creator versus rapper, or the line between a personality and a brand. Like, when you thought of Akademiks, you could have thought of a bunch of different things. A news outlet, a media personality, co-host of the biggest hip-hop show at the time, a live streamer, or if you really want to be generous, a hip-hop journalist, or even a comedian. And I think he was a pioneer in kind of blurring these lines and wearing different hats. And regardless of whether or not you hated his antics, it was these very same antics that got him to where he was. And with the influence of Akademiks came one of his offsprings, the ultimate content creator slash rapper hybrid, Tekashi 6ix9ine. It might be crazy to think of in 2025, but by the end of 2017, 6ix9ine was the biggest thing in hip-hop for a good year. He went 10 for 10 on the Billboard charts, every song he dropped was a hit, but everyone considered him as much of an Instagram personality as he was a rapper. And speaking of him, this is where my biggest problem with Akademiks started. Akademiks propped 6ix9ine up from the beginning as if he wasn't a cancer to the culture. Again, you had to remember that Akademiks had an insane obsession with numbers. He didn't care that he was pushing the war in Chirac because that's what kept his audience growing. He pushed all these SoundCloud rappers because he understood this is the direction the internet and the youth were headed in. He clowned Wale for his sales because to him, this was all just a game of numbers and metrics. But you have to give him credit because it was these intuitions, whether ethical or not, that got him in the position of being the biggest media personality within hip-hop and being able to wear all these different hats and have all these different revenue streams, from his live streams to his YouTube revenue to his show with Joe Budden. Plus, it opened up the door for other media personalities or even rappers to venture into the podcast routes, the live stream routes, having their own shows, doing things outside of just creating music or talking about it. Again, his presence in the culture and his intense work ethic were a double-edged sword. There were definitely some positives whether you loved him or hated him. So of course, when he saw the massive attention that 6ix9ine was garnering, it only made sense that no matter how disgusting and vile 6ix9ine was, Akademiks gets right up close and personal with him to piggyback off of and capitalize off the train wreck. And ironically, their first interaction publicly was when 6ix9ine was exposed for misconduct with a minor. Akademiks was the only media personality in hip-hop to offer 6ix9ine an interview during this time.
I'm here to look you in your eye, and I'm expecting you to tell me the truth. And you talking to millions of people right now.
Bro, I'm ready to leave it all on the table. This is where the real interviews start right now. You feel me? This is where it really starts.
And this wasn't the quote-unquote King of New York 10 for 10 on Billboard 6ix9ine. He was still a relatively underground rapper, but having this big look and this interview from Akademiks gave 6ix9ine the opportunity to be humanized to a certain degree. He could have lost everything with that misconduct case that he caught, but Akademiks co-signing him and giving him the biggest platform in hip-hop to spread his antics and attention-seeking activities was the vessel, outlet, and catalyst 6ix9ine needed to become hip-hop's biggest supervillain. Don't forget, at the time, Akademiks had the biggest Instagram page in hip-hop. And the same tactics he used early on in his career to blow up, ones that I actually took a lot of inspiration from due to the sheer hunger. The fact that he would work some minimum wage job, but the second he would hear any bit of hip-hop news, he would run to his car and record a video on it and always beat every other hip-hop outlet to the story.
Cool, so I get a job because DJing just wasn't that lucrative, but it made me enough to like pay rent. I get the job and I'm like in the back of my car recording YouTube videos when I would tell my boss like, yo, I gotta go to the bathroom. So yeah, something happens, I say, yo, I gotta go to the bathroom. I run to my car, make a video on it right then.
The hunger was inspiring, but at this point, he started using those same tactics in a much more negative way. He would be the first one to share anything that 6ix9ine did. Every clip that 6ix9ine posted on his Instagram was reposted seconds later on Akademiks' page. He'd get on Instagram Live and talk with 6ix9ine. By the time Joe left Everyday Struggle, basically every single episode was devoted to talking about what 6ix9ine was up to that day. And all this was just gasoline on a fire that helped 6ix9ine explode into becoming a social media star. Ironically, Akademiks claims to have coined the term the Drake stimulus package.
When you think about the year 2013 in hip-hop, one of the most consistent trends we're going to remember is the Drake stimulus package. If you don't know what the Drake stimulus package is when Drake blesses one of your favorite rappers with a hook or a verse on a song that basically gives them a release date or prevents their album from going double styrofoam.
10 years later.
The Drake stimulus package right now doesn't exist.
But he was giving 6ix9ine the Akademiks stimulus package. The second 6ix9ine would do or say something, Akademiks would share it on the biggest social media platform in hip-hop. And you had to wonder, what motivated Akademiks to platform all this negativity? Why did he start a friendship with 6ix9ine in the first place? It seemingly stemmed from the interview they did, which only happened so 6ix9ine could clear up the weird case that he had going on. It was a strange friendship from the jump. But Akademiks always chalks it up to the fact that he's a loyal person, and if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, then sure. 6ix9ine and Akademiks now had this loyal brotherhood. Both of them were punching bags and underdogs within the industry, but they kept getting bigger no matter how much hate they got because they fueled each other up. And still at this point, depending how you looked at it, you could overlook the 6ix9ine cosign and make the argument that Akademiks was still doing as much good as he was bad. Everyday Struggle was still running. It was entertaining to see the differing opinions, him clashing with Joe, and then later hosts like Star and Wallow. It was really documenting the major shift occurring in hip-hop. And to give Akademiks credit at the time, he still seemed somewhat humble and hungry. He accepted his role as the younger guy. He took game and criticism from Joe, but then Joe left the show, and Akademiks became the star of it. And simultaneously, at the time, just like with the War in Chirac content, I wasn't aware of all the content he was doing on his Twitch live streams. To give him credit, he was also a pioneer of the live streaming as well. But I'm kind of an old head when it comes to streaming. Like, I don't really know anything about these streamers. I only really knew about it when it became global and you had these megastars like Kai Cenat and IShowSpeed. I still don't watch streamers. But these live streams were the foundation of what was gearing up to be Akademiks' biggest problem. When he went back and forth with Wale, Vic Menza, Migos, whoever, it was always in person. So he acted humble because A, Joe was around and led with respect, and B, all of these interactions were in person. But on Twitch, the only thing Akademiks was face to face with was a Henny bottle and a computer screen. There was no one to check him. So he started going off. And I mean, I do respect defending yourself. I do respect being outspoken. And I definitely respect that Akademiks built his own platform, which now grants him the ability to say what he wants without censorship. But it comes with a slippery slope. Because yes, you have the freedom to say whatever you want. But if you're constantly thirsting for a higher viewership, it might lead you saying some really disturbing, disgusting, and dumb stuff. Which it did. And it'll play an important role in this story very shortly. Again, I didn't know anything about Twitch or live streaming, but that was where a lot of Akademiks' problems began arising. I followed the news off his Instagram page and I kept up with him through Everyday Struggle, but there was one day in 2020 when he got suspended off the show. Come to find out, it was because he was on Twitch the night before, talking crazy on a live stream about Freddie Gibbs.
I'll son you, your mama, your daddy, your son, your daughter, everybody. So when you talking about, oh no, you're my son living, you're stupid. I know exactly where you live at. I'm not that type of. You don't live in a bigger crib even than me. Relax yourself, little bum. You, whoever you with, your son, relax yourself. Don't be trying to talk to me. I'm a different league. I'm top tier league. I'm what they call major league. You minor league.
The jeweler Ben Baller.
You used to overcharge African Americans while you're Asian. You don't sell no jewelry to Asian. You sold all your shit to hip-hop African Americans, and then you want to act like you're some savant. You're a scum. I'm gonna drive it home day after day after. My whole liquors is spilled. My whole liquor just spilled right. I don't know what happened.
But worst of all, John Legend's wife, Chrissy Teigen.
His be talking mad shit online. What's Chrissy Teigen? She would sneak this in me. How about you take that big mouth of yours and that weird looking face and start promoting your man's album? Maybe you wouldn't do 25,000 first week because you got all the jokes. And when you trying to get it, you think you're the smartest, cutest, funniest thing possible, but your man is still flopping. He's a legend doing 25,000. That's a flop.
Now, Akademiks credits this live stream as being the downfall of the Everyday Struggle show, but I believe he simultaneously looks at this as the turning point that took him and his brand to another level. He took all that negative energy and he flipped it. He turned it into views, clicks, and a growing fan base that couldn't get enough of his unfiltered takes. When Everyday Struggle first aired, Akademiks was this goofy, pretty controversial, but still somewhat respectful internet personality. But by the time Everyday Struggle was cancelled, Akademiks, just like his buddy 6ix9ine, was a real-life hip-hop supervillain. It didn't matter to him if you loved him or absolutely hated him. All that mattered was that you tuned in to watch the circus. He took inspiration from his idol Drake and racked up enemies in the rap world like Thanos racked up Infinity Stones, beefing with rappers of all subgenres from Meek Mill.
You thought you could stop my platform. You stopped your own. You became enemies with me for no reason other than your jealousy and your inability to process your L against a singing rapper. Now you selling 89,000 copies after you linked up with Dirt, made a whole Dirt copy album. You linked up with Baby, everybody in the game. You said you could have stopped my shit. Can't happen.
To Freddie Gibbs.
I know exactly where you live at. I'm not that type of. You don't live in a bigger crib even than me. Relax yourself, little bum. You, whoever you with, your son, relax yourself. Don't be trying to talk to me. I'm a different league. I'm top tier league. I'm what they call major league. You minor league.
To Nav.
But a nigga like Nav, you rode Weeknd's coat. You pretty much an industry plant. I'm a demon when it comes to media. I'm glad you did. Cause at every weight position, I will be pointing out why Nav is an industry plant of Indian trying to infiltrate the culture who really was on some bullshit at first.
And Lil Baby.
Yo, chat, I feel like the Monstars hopped out of one of them New Jersey drones and grabbed Lil Baby and shook the talent out of him. I don't know what I'm hearing thus far, chat. I don't know what I'm hearing. It's like they shook the talent out of him. You ever seen Space Jam when they shook the talent out of him? It's just like the Monstars came down. I don't know what happened to this guy. I really just don't know.
But I think up until this point, by far the most interesting interaction that Akademiks had with another rapper came from his short-lived back and forth with Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey was supposed to be a guest on Everyday Struggle in 2018 to promote his album Victory Lap. Like I mentioned earlier, at this time Joe had already left the show, Tekashi was running Instagram, and basically every other topic on Everyday Struggle was about one of Tekashi's beefs or one of his antics. Nipsey thought he was going on the show to talk about his music and his community initiatives, when he found out that there was a list of different topics and one of them included 6ix9ine getting into a fight at the LAX airport. He told the crew that he'd be leaving if he had to gossip about any other rapper.
I was on Everyday Struggle and I walked out just because, you know, I'm not a clown. I don't come from that world of like you make jokes about. We used to up. Excuse me, are we live?
No, we can bleep this.
We used to up for trying to film fights.
Nipsey then cleared the air on this, stating multiple different things about Akademiks, and I think the sad truth is that all of them resonate even stronger today. He thought Akademiks was a clown, and that his clown behavior stems from the fact that he's hiding behind a camera. And ultimately, you just gotta let clowns be clowns.
Yeah, he's a buster. He's a weirdo. He's behind the camera, and you gotta just let clowns be clowns, man.
He then emphasizes that Akademiks obviously thrives off of controversy, but because of that and the large platform that he's grown, he's indirectly become an instigator of a lot of conflict that could have been avoided.
We ain't covering no drama. That's called instigating. Right. And what's up with you? While you at it, like him get weeded out quick. He got a little internet run he going on, but you know, we just gotta let him self-destruct because he's on the path.
In a separate interview, he emphasized that he doesn't have an actual beef with Akademiks, but his issue is the fact that if you didn't come from the culture, you have to be very careful in how you speak on it.
I don't got beef with dude. Yeah. I'm gonna call a spade, bro. Yeah. And one thing I get personally offended by, bro, you got young kids that come from nothing, that change their family life, that avoid jail through hip hop. So I don't like people playing with it. So for me, it's like, if you ain't come from hip hop culture, for real, if you don't come from where this thing started, if you don't come from the energy that created this thing and that people are drawn to this thing because of, be careful how you critique this thing, bro, because your opinion has not been validated.
Yeah. He names a specific example of how Akademiks indirectly instigates conflict, because when 21 Savage said he wanted to stop buying jewelry, Ak said that all we want to hear from 21 Savage is music about violence.
So when I hear somebody like dude saying things like for example, they said recently that 21 Savage said that he stopped buying jewelry and that he gonna spend his money on investing. That's a powerful message.
It is.
For somebody that people follow, and that's from a young generation. And Akademiks criticized him and said, I don't want to hear nothing but killing, and I'm about to kill the ops, and I don't want to hear that from 21 Savage.
Nipsey emphasizes again that the way that Akademiks behaves will inevitably lead him to self-destruct. Nipsey was never trying to add fuel to the fire by having a beef with Akademiks or doing anything to him personally, but instead kept repeating the message that you just gotta let clowns be clowns.
That's why I said in the interview, man, I ain't saying I'm gonna do nothing to Act. I say you gotta let clowns be clowns, and let dudes self-destruct, because I've been paying attention to his message. And I ain't like it, but I respect how you eat, bro. But after a while, you getting out of control. And then you got companies that add gas to them sparks for their own interests.
Yes,
and then
indeed.
they sell advertising space. And I don't like that. You taking something that's serious and that, you know, people doing with integrity, and you spinning it.
Nipsey Hussle sent a strong warning that, again, rings as true today as it ever did. He compares Akademiks making a living off of instigating real-life beef to the issues between Biggie and Pac, and eventually the East versus West Coast. The media knows that that's what's going to bring in attention and clicks and then revenue. So by gassing up the issue to be more than it is, they gain a profit, but simultaneously real issues begin to emerge because of reports that they've made.
People criticize Vibe for doing that back in the day with
for pumping up that West Coast, East Coast.
Absolutely.
They might have been the first place you heard East Coast, West Coast beef.
That wasn't real.
I don't think Pac and Big came up with that.
No.
I think they spun that because they like, if it bleeds, it leads.
Absolutely.
We know how fascinated people are with this type of shit. But then it's like throwing rocks and hiding your hand. But you ain't on the front line. That's what I was saying about instigating beefs.
But with Akademiks, it wasn't just that he was reporting on other people's issues and instigating beefs between other people. It was that he was instigating beefs of his own. Again, Akademiks became who he is today because he's an independent media personality. When he was signed to Complex doing Everyday Struggle, he couldn't just talk crazy on Twitch, because Complex would then suspend him from the show. He had to have a certain sense of decorum and move with respect, especially since he confronted a lot of these rappers face to face on the show. But now the show was done. Akademiks was bigger than ever, and while reporting on beef may have blew him up, getting into his own beefs made him even bigger, and no one could stop him because his audience came from his own platform that he owned. He had no boss. And from there, like Nipsey said, you're gonna be the root of your own demise. Akademiks shifted his focus from the Meek Mills and Freddie Gibbs and instead started taking issues with various women within the industry. Everyone from Megan Thee Stallion.
Used tires, man. Nah, Meg is built. Meg not built sloppy. I think Meg is put together. You feel me? Like, if only, I feel like I might need some steroids to get, Meg's, muscle definition. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna lie, man. Her, you know what I mean? She might beat me in an arm wrestle competition.
To SZA.
SZA insecure, bitch had freckles, take it off, all that weird shit. You was trying to play with me one time. I'm on your ass today. We're still though. We just gotta keep it a bean with you. I ain't gonna lie. You know what the crazy thing is? Let me keep it a bean. SZA is as fat as me. That's 100% facts. You got a double chin. You suck the fat out of there and put it into your ass. Your ass be looking lopsided. Your belly button be looking weird because they done move that bitch around. It's like tic-tac-toe. SZA is fat as me. Body built like a smart car. I don't know what she did to me, but I've been had it on for her.
To Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj, H. Now, I want to let you know that it says 40 years of age, but reportedly Nicki's older than this. She's 43, close to 45. Okay? Just to let y'all know. All right? This is a little entertainment age. Everybody got an entertainment age. Okay? This is her entertainment age. She's older than this. Okay. Now,
to Young Miami.
That's what's wrong with these city girls, man. They think they running the show. This ain't baddies. Get the fuck out of here. You're a scallywag who your biggest accomplishment in music is sucking Diddy's That's your biggest accomplishment. Stop it. Acting like you some big musician.
To Selena Powell. He eventually got hit with various cases of assault and misconduct. And we haven't even gotten to the Drake beef yet. I have a whole video touching on Drake's mistreatment of Akademiks and the years that Akademiks has spent shamelessly glazing Drake. So instead of focusing on his relationship with Drake in this video, I'll leave my Drake and Akademiks video in the description, and I'd rather shift the focus onto how Akademiks has become a Drake propaganda machine. And while he used to hype Kendrick up on the early days of Everyday Struggle, during this beef, he now became Drake's mouthpiece. When Drake couldn't defeat Kendrick, he wished for anybody in the world to come and defeat Kendrick in Drake's honor.
Yo, I'm at the point, even if y'all say Drake ain't win, I'm rooting for any that could Kendrick up. I'm tired of this. He got rappers sounding like hoes. He's apologizing, scrolling through their text messages, unsending. What is this doing? Y'all got the same 24 hours in a day.
Like Nipsey Hussle predicted, when Drake paid the lawyer fees for his Goon Top 5 to be released from prison, on his first day out, he hopped on Akademiks' live stream and immediately started making threats at Kendrick, saying Kendrick wasn't safe in Toronto and that him and Drake were going to watch the Not Like Us video and do some homework on everyone who was in it.
Kendrick Lamar can't come to Toronto. I'm here.
Yo! No. Yo, we gotta politic this real quick. Yo!
And as Nipsey Hussle predicted, Akademiks had now inserted himself in this conflict he had no involvement in and was using his platform to instigate issues between Top 5 and all of Kendrick's affiliates. It's one thing to pick a side in a rap beef. It's one thing to enjoy one person's music more than another's. But months after any diss tracks were thrown at each other, Akademiks was leading this beef into uncharted territory, taking it out of the booth and into a live stream where he's gassing Drake's goon up to start talking crazy about Kendrick and people affiliated with him.
Kendrick come to the sick. Kendrick say about to book a show. He say about to shut the place down still.
You sure?
Probably gonna be with all the police.
No, even he's with the police. He ain't coming. Metro Boomin too.
It's a no-fly zone,
Yo,
man.
Metro Boomin, man, I see what you're trying to do with my boy, man.
He also started this separate page called Akademiks TV, which I don't believe he's directly posting on. I think he has mods doing the posting for him. But if it's not a straight up Drake propaganda machine, it's pushing some of the most vile, fictitious, rage bait, fake news that you could find in hip hop media. Again, this might not be Akademiks directly, but him greenlighting all the posts on this page is still him indirectly instigating more hatred and more unnecessary issues. And despite his infatuation with Drake, one that has spanned well over 10 years, Drake has not once ever publicly commented on Akademiks, except for one time in 2018 when he told him to get off his Instagram live.
Akademiks, dip from my live, man. Real talk, man. I don't really like that, bro. You need to dip from my live, man. Real talk. I'm trying to get your shine.
Do a shot right now. I need to see you do a triple shot right now for the people.
I'm gonna get a cup.
A triple shot.
I want to see you,
I want to see you fry your guy right now. For all the times that me and you've been through, I need to see you pour the craziest shot right now. Do it right now for the people.
And instead of giving Akademiks live streams or interviews, Drake instead lies to him, feeds him fake information that he spreads into the world, and resultingly destroys Akademiks' journalistic credibility. Some DMs leaked between Drake and another individual where Drake was talking about LeBron cheating on his wife. He told Akademiks those DMs were fake. Akademiks reported that he heard from Drake that they were fake. They later came out to be true. And instead of criticizing Drake for lying to him, he instead shifted the blame onto LeBron James and started going off on him, saying that Drake feeds him women in Toronto that he cheats on his wife with.
Maybe Drake will keep teasing it. Let me just tell you what I've heard. Yo, LeBron, you and Drake used to go on two-mans. You've been cheating on your wife. Drake used to facilitate the host. And basically, essentially, you can't dance to a song about him being a pedophile. He used to supply you with the bitches. Yes, if I'm Drake, I snitch on you too. Sorry, buddy. You can't do that. No. You've been living a lie, and everybody been thinking you're this perfect guy, but when you come to Canada, I know some of the whores.
Again, more instigating. But I think at this point, Akademiks just genuinely thinks he's too big to fail, no pun intended. And to his respect, the hunger has never died down. He has insane stamina. His foot has been on the gas in hip-hop media for the last 10 years. He does 10-hour live streams. He has multiple pages posting news or propaganda every single day. And quite frankly, it's damn near impossible to cancel or outwork a guy who simply won't back down or leave. Whether you love him or hate him, he will be able to maintain a top position within hip-hop media due to his immense output and workflow. All of these issues we've reported on have only made him bigger because he refuses to disappear. But then we get to today. There's this kid named Noor who's a moderator or a big fan of another streamer named Playboi Max.
A kid I basically view as my little brother, you feel me? Noor, he lives in Malaysia. He doesn't speak Malay. He lost his mother. I've known him for like 2 years now. He's gone through a lot. He basically can't make friends in real life because he don't speak the language native to that country. And so he'd be on Discord all the time. And he'd be in Twitch chats. He just needs people to talk to, friends. I really care about this kid. I've helped him financially, emotionally, all that. His finances, all that. It really runs deep. This is like 3 years deep, gang. I've known him for a long time.
Akademiks, along with some other streamers, were in a private Discord with him, and they all hopped on this live stream that they thought was only being viewed by around 20 people. Essentially, they thought the conversation wouldn't get leaked online, and because of that, they made some extremely deranged comments to this 15-year-old kid.
I am 15. I hope you know that, bro. You trying to
You scared of women, bro.
I'm not scared of women. Yo, bro, you trying to put me on a case. You trying to put them on a case.
So?
What you mean, so? That's weird.
Trying to look out.
This kid loves Playboi Max, so they were asking him if he'd sleep with Playbboi's sister.
Yo, if Max got a sister and she threw you the box, would you smash?
He already has a sister.
Alright, if she threw you the box, would you smash?
No, because I'm 15.
What I mean?
They were asking him if he'd sleep with Playboi himself.
If Max said he wanted to try dude, would you let you?
No.
Why not? No, yo. Suppose he's like, yo, bro, listen, yo, you always wanted me to be next to you. Now I could be in pause.
They were asking if this kid would sleep with any women in general. And keep in mind, this is a kid, not someone Akademiks is related to, just some random kid in a Discord. Playboi Max, the streamer who the kid is a massive fan of, came out and emphasized how weird these comments were.
I have this plan for today. I'm not giving this weird ass shit attention right now. This is weird.
And instead of taking accountability, Akademiks went off on Playboi Max for saying that the interaction was weird and basically gaslit the entire situation.
I never need to be on Kai, Max, Adin, nobody's stream. I don't need none and nobody who stream. I got my own thing going on. So when I see this shit piss me off, I'm like, bro, I'm over here fucking with these supporting them. No more Max clips on my page. I'm supporting these niggas, and these niggas is kicking my back in. I get nothing from it. Every clip you see from Max from now on, I guarantee you, $3,000 a clip.
He was seemingly completely unapologetic, even tried to blame Kendrick fans for criticizing him over these comments made to this kid.
I know people trying to make it weird, and this is why, you know, I know it ain't even Max's community. It's really like these Kendrick fans and shit like that.
Oh, the
They
Kendrick
trying to
fan.
make it weird, like.
And when he tried to explain himself as to why he'd make these strange comments to a kid, he gets on stream with Adin Ross, and the conversation shifts from why did you ask this kid about who he's sleeping with to whether or not Adin has erectile dysfunction and if he needs some honey that gives you an erection.
The 8th graders would always come to like the 3rd graders, which was me at the time. You know, they would just try to play like pranks on the 3rd graders. But the thing is, you're a grown man. You're like almost 40.
Not the weight room, the bedroom. I get a honey pack and the Ozempic pack? What? What are you talking about? Wait, you got ED?
No, I'm asking you if you have ED.
Yo, I'll send you a honey pack, bro.
I don't need it. My shit works without it. That's why I'm asking you, why do you use honey packs?
Keep in mind, this is a man in his mid-30s trying to explain why he made weird comments about the intimacy of a 15-year-old kid. And he's having this conversation with a man in his mid-20s, redirecting the topic to start talking about Viagra honey.
One of my biggest objections to this whole thing is like people thinking it's gruel. I'm like, if you think we're like legitimately setting this kid up, this is like crazy. But of course, I'm not gonna stand by any of those statements. They're a little crazy. I get a honey pack and the Ozempic pack? What? What are you talking about? Wait, you got ED?
You can see at this point again, Akademiks thinks he's simply too big to fail, so he doesn't care to show remorse. That comes off as weakness to him. All the bullying he got early on in his career has ultimately simply made him vengeful. anyone who criticizes him now, Akademiks goes full attack mode on them. He has too much to lose. He used to say he was loyal to 6ix9ine because 6ix9ine was loyal to him. But now these streamers are attacking him, and instead of viewing that as genuine criticism, he views it as disloyalty. And I think the streamers Dante and Playboi Max both kind of summarized this situation up perfectly. Akademiks was mad at all this criticism, but Dante emphasized, if you didn't do weird things, if you didn't behave weirdly, no one would have any real criticism to make about you.
It feels so good to not be a creep, a loser, a bum, and just to be, you know, a normal person. That way, when it gets into situations like that, niggas have no choice but to say the most basic shit. They couldn't say nothing, because it's easy to not do weird shit and not be in these situations. The only thing niggas can say is that this don't got a manly voice, though. That sound gay when he talk. You seen that wife, though? That like to dance to really good music for his audience.
And Playboi Max emphasized that no matter how much business comes your way, no matter how infatuated you are by the numbers, you gotta put your morals over your business.
Don't post me, it's fine. Because at the end of the day, when you stand for your morals and stand for what you believe is right, and you pray, you're gonna prevail regardless. I'm not worried about you posting me. You can post me, you can not. It's not my concern. I'm gonna keep it a buck. And I'm gonna be honest, I sat and thought about it. I'm like, bro, you can never put business over your morals, ever, gang, ever. That's when you start losing the plot, ever. For any kids out there, if y'all ever in situations with adults, whatever, they're asking you weird questions, always remove yourself from those situations.
And for me, like I mentioned before, making this video is kind of bittersweet, because I came up knowing Akademiks as the guy who transformed hip-hop media in a lot of ways. He was a big inspiration in a lot of ways because as a white guy from Canada, I know I'm a tourist to the culture, but I grew up loving hip-hop music. It's always been a dream of mine to talk music like I am today with you guys, and I believe that Akademiks broke down a lot of doors that made it possible to deliver content through the outlets that most media personalities do today, like YouTube and Twitch, becoming simultaneously a brand through his Instagram account and a personality through the Everyday Struggle show. But like Nipsey Hussle had said, if you're not truly from the culture, you have to be very careful on how you speak on it. And that's something I absolutely take very seriously. And I want to make sure I only speak on issues that I know I could offer valid perspective on, and stay very far away from anything that could instigate issues, delving into street issues that I have no affiliation or knowledge on, and just approaching commentary in a respectful way, bringing you guys as much positivity as I possibly could, and keeping the focus on the love of the music. And I think, obviously, again, I wasn't aware of a lot of the war in Chirac stuff, but at the beginning, to me, Akademiks did seem like he tried to be humble at first. His work ethic was extremely inspiring. His innovative ways for delivering content broke down a lot of doors. Him talking about working those minimum wage jobs and running to his car whenever he heard a new song drop or a new piece of news and being the first one to report it, he gave me confidence in a lot of ways to feel like it's possible to, spend your life commenting on music and art that you love. But I think just like how he fixates on rappers' sales data, the growth of his own numbers got to his head. And it seems like it's made him think in his own head that he's some sort of supervillain to the industry. And because of that, he can act in these vile, disgusting ways. And because it only grows his numbers and the fact that he owns his own platform, he'll suffer no consequences. And it's very sad because his hunger and his innovation in the way that he delivered content, again, helped me have the motivation to be able to realize that it is feasible to start a channel like this. And ironically, Akademiks actually gave me the biggest cosign I had ever gotten when he reviewed my Not Like Us music video breakdown. If you guys have been watching this channel, then you know that that's where I've gotten my outro from. He was the only big personality to ever shout out my channel's name.
There's a lot of little nuggets in both of their disses that if it wasn't for these breakdowns, and salute to guys like this, Rapaholics, because I think they directly get it.
And I had put that at the end of my videos to proudly remind myself that one of the biggest voices in the space, someone whose growth I watched for a very long time, showed me that I can aspire to be in the position he's at. But just like what Playboi Max said, just like what Nipsey Hussle said, you gotta put your morals before your business. You've gotta be very careful commenting on a culture that you're not actually from. I do think that there's a lot that Akademiks has brought that's positive to the culture, but especially with the string of events that have occurred over the last few days, I think unfortunately at this point, the negatives far outweigh the positives. And while this may not be the end of Akademiks, with him not really apologizing for this disgusting interaction, this will be the end of me posting his cosign at the end of my videos, because I simply can't cosign these actions. And I could say this for a fact. There's a big difference between fame and infamy. Him acting the way he does might grow his numbers today, but it will only make more people patiently wait for the day that he inevitably leaves the culture. And even if that day doesn't come today, tomorrow, or anytime in the near future, like Nipsey Hussle said, only you will be responsible for your own demise.